Welcome to Current Situation, your weekly political pulse. I'm your host, Joshua Gale, alongside South Carolina State House Representative Jordan Pace. Every week, our goal is to help you navigate the complex world of politics through a biblically conservative perspective. Before we jump into today's conversation, we're going to take a word from our sponsor.
Smashing Plastic Pickleball podcast is going to be about the three most amazing things about pickleball. Number one, the community. Number two, the health benefits. And lastly, but most importantly, is fun. The podcast of Smashing Plastic Pickleball is going to emphasize on fun. Yes, fundamentals of playing pickleball will be a part of what we talk about, but most importantly, just the fun of pickleball. That is Smashing Plastic Pickleball, and we want to have you tune into our podcast today.
In this episode, we're joined by Serita Edgerton. She's running for South Carolina State House District 34, which is Spartanburg County, around District 5 and 6. That's mostly the west side of Spartanburg County. Sarita is pro-life. She believes that all children are a gift of God, and she's a CWP holder, and her podcast is sponsored by Carolina Cases, and we'll put some of that information in our show notes for this episode. She is a defender of the right to keep and bear arms. Sarita also believes that parents should decide about a child's education, and she supports educational opportunities to give every child the best chance to succeed. Sarita supports the DOT reform to get our roads fixed without further tax increases. Sarita also is standing on immigration reform. Local law enforcement should be able to be empowered and equipped to detain illegal immigrants, and South Carolina should fully support Texas, Florida, and other states, even if Joe Biden won't. Taxes should also be low and broad so that our economy can be competitive. Sarita is married to her husband, Mike, of 24 years, and he is a local land surveyor in Spartanburg County. She is the mother of 4 children, and they have 2 dogs. When they're not campaigning and doing a grassroots campaign, you can find Sarita playing disc golf in the many beautiful courses that they have in what we call the upstate of South Carolina. Some refer to it as God's country. Go ahead, Sarita.
I was told by I've been here all my life, but they were like, it's called the up country. Upstate is New York.
Okay. All right. So we're talking about the upcountry, and Sarita is a South Carolina realtor. She has served in her local church and volunteers for various charities in the county, and has served on several boards and committees. Sarita, welcome to the Current Situation podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. So you run for state house. It's an open seat.
Yes, sir.
What was it that made you say, I'm gonna put myself and my family through this campaigning and going door to door? Like what was the kind of the unction, the motivation there?
I guess I've always been active, making phone calls to my local politicians or my federal politicians, no matter where I lived, trying to get involved in that way. Being involved, in my HOA boards and community service, just being involved. And then 4 years ago, I heard somebody say, we need people at the polls. So I signed up to be a poll manager and got involved doing that. Very quickly, I turned into a poll clerk and began running the poll, trying to make sure our elections are fair and done correctly according to our state law. And I homeschooled all 4 of my kids. I'm on my last one. I have 1 more to go, and he'll be a junior. And I have raised them on, well, let me tell you, my older daughter, who loves 80s and 70s music, said, Mama, I wish I grew up in the 80s. Things just seemed better then. And, so, she hears how great it was because, that we remember the good stuff, right? And I looked at her and I said, the Lord put you in the kingdom for such a time as this. Mm-hmm. And I've been telling my kids that their whole lives. You were put here to go and change the world, to be in the kingdom, like Esther, who was a teenager, for such a time as this. And so I kept saying, somebody needs to go to Columbia, somebody needs to go to Washington, somebody needs to do something. It is getting worse, not better. Nobody decent runs for office. And my daughter looked at me and she said, Mom, what if God puts you in the kingdom for such a time as this? And I went,
Ooh.
oh, toes crushed. I mean, it was brutal.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, I'll run for, I don't know, county council or dog catcher or something. Like, I never run for office. I didn't know what to do. And lo and behold, my current legislator decided that he was going to run for Senate, and that came open. And the Lord said, you're going to do that. And I said, but I don't know how to run for office. I don't know anything about it. I don't even know how to. So of course, I go on the website to figure out when to file. So I didn't even announce I was running until like 2 days before I filed, which was the very first day of filing date. I have not been door knocking since January. I have not been fundraising since November. I didn't even know that was a thing. Y'all, it's like drinking from a fire hose. But the Lord said, do it. So I met with a couple of people, got some ideas. I Googled how to run for office.
Yep.
I mean, well, I don't use Google, but I search engines how to run for office. And I went and filed and didn't know anything about ethics filing. So that was a whole learning experience that cost me a little bit of money. And I have been, it said go door knocking. And that was the advice I got from several people. And that's what I started doing. When I first started it, I didn't have any platform. I was just knocking on my neighbors' doors that I knew voted. I started there, telling them I was running. Didn't have anything to give them. Didn't have anywhere to send them. I just started knocking doors. And then slowly the money came in, little bit by little bit. I never have more than I need, really. I have exactly what I need. I call it my manna from heaven. I get exactly what I need. And so that's what I've been doing. And I've probably, between my husband and myself, we don't have a team. I was kind of listening to one of your other people you interviewed, the lady, Jody.
Yeah. Jody Bowman.
And I just, we've done 800 doors by ourselves, and we have about another 400 to go on our first tier, and we'll clear that probably by Monday, and we will start our second tier. Like I said, I'm running from behind, but when you're running from behind and you have nobody ahead of you, it's not that it's not hard, because I come home every day exhausted because I'm still momming and I'm still real estating and I'm still, visiting friends in the hospital and taking care of my neighbors. I still do all that and volunteer. But I'm out every day, even on Sundays when I can, unless it's Mother's Day. I didn't go out on Mother's Day. I took a break that day. But
as you should.
I figured I gave birth 4 times. I get an afternoon off. So that's what I've been doing. And I really feel the Lord has called me to it. My husband we have prayed about it, and he also feels it, and he's like, are you sure, God? Because every time we get a bad piece of mail about me, Lord, this is my wife that they're talking about.
Yeah.
That's my wife. He said, if it was about me, it wouldn't be a big deal. That's my wife. It hurts him. To me, it just makes me, okay, let's go. I'm ready to go. Let's, it fuels my fire. But for him, it breaks his heart, because he's like, how can people lie about you like that? And I know why I'm the target, but of the 3 of us who are running for this particular office, they're not
because you're the most conservative, and you're a mama bear, and you could spend a couple seconds with you and realize very quickly you are a mama bear. The debate in North America is, what is the strongest bear or the most fierce bear? Is it the black bear or the grizzly bear? But both of those answers would be wrong. It's the mama bear.
Yeah.
And it's the American mama bear. It's the conservative Christian woman who has a moral compass and has her values and her eyes in the right place, and who can hear from heaven, and who is not easily offended by the world or distracted by the enemy, and who wants a better future for her children. And it sounds like you've heard that call and that challenge from your own children. And that is just wonderful and admirable about you. I see a sign behind your head, and a friend of mine just wrote a song about how the enemy has crossed the line. And as for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. This, it sounds like you have an incredibly huge servant heart, and you want to expand that and take that to Columbia. What is, when we'll call it when elected, going in and stepping into Columbia, you're taking your values with you. These truly, what Jordan and I call truly conservative values. There's a lot of people out there that claim to be conservative. But then when you start poking holes in it, you realize that is not fruit at all. It's actually, it's way past the ripening date, and there's many holes to be poked into that. So explain, what it means to you to be truly conservative, and what you're going to take to Columbia with you.
So to be truly conservative, you have to, my litmus test, and this is something my husband and I have said from the time that I went through healing from my own abortion. After that, and we began to vote on our Christian values, and I can go into that more if you'd like at some point, but our litmus test is the person truly pro-life? And I mean, truly pro-life. Will you say that baby, no matter how it's conceived, is a true human being? Now, we can argue the punishments and all of that kind of stuff. We can talk about that. And I probably don't agree with most of the equal protection people on that, because I was that girl who was forced and coerced and lied to. And so, but what I won't do, and we have coalesced a small group of people to pray, kind of like I took a page out of Billy Graham's book. We did, where he had people pray that he would never be compromised, that he would never get into ethical scandals. He would never, and he did. And I have asked those people specifically to pray for that who I am as a Christian and who I am as a wife to my husband and a mother to my children doesn't get compromised by Satan or the evil one. Because you see so many people who you think are, and I know them, they're decent humans, and they go to DC or they go to Columbia, and they're compromised because they don't have a backbone to stand on. But
or Satan saw an open door.
Yeah. The thing with me is there is no closed door, because I have shared my testimony so many times in so many churches around the Southeast and before women's groups and youth groups. And when I was being asked, if someone can attack you, what are they going to attack you on? I said, they might call me a hypocrite on the abortion issue because I had one. I don't believe in them now. I might be called a hypocrite. I can kind of get that. That's not where they went with the attack, which was bizarre beyond my belief. I could not believe the way they came at me. But I'm not afraid to share my testimony. And if I can share about the worst thing that a person can do to another person, and how God got me through that, and withstand some of the criticism from within the Christian church about, hey, you're going to hell for killing your baby. I don't care. God won't forgive you for that. That's unforgivable. And I get those calls when I tell my testimony, but it doesn't stop me from sharing what God has done in my life and bringing Him glory through it, because there are women hurting in our state, in our country, in our churches. And if somebody doesn't tell them, how will they know? And so if I can share that, there's not much that they can sling at me that will hurt, because I don't really.
Sounds like you're pretty unoffendable. Yeah. I love that.
I'm old. I'm too old to be offended at this point.
I love that. And so having a long form podcast here, and we're only 14 minutes into it. We'll give you, a chance, if you want to, where can folks find that testimony?
Okay. Well, you could go to YouTube and search,
was it something we could put in the show notes, or you'd like to?
Yeah, you could put it. I was on Tony Bean's podcast. I don't know if you ever heard of that. I shared my testimony on Right to Life Sunday this year. I shared it at First North, which is Georgia's growing up church.
That's where I grew up.
I shared it on Right to Life Sunday.
We'll put that in the show notes. And because I do want people to hear that, I want to hear that myself as well. We need more people to be able to speak about that and to not and to be just bold in the face of any kind of shame that the enemy would try to use to silence you for the rest of your life, and then you didn't allow it. I know that Satan is hating it, that he didn't allow any shame to silence you for the rest of your life, and for you to be able to stand up and be vulnerable. And we really appreciate that. It's extremely commendable. So some of the other mailers you spoke about, is there anything in this long form podcasting that you want to set straight? Any record you want to set straight?
So let me be very clear. To quote Joe Biden, let me be very clear. He usually is not being very clear when he says that.
No,
And I'm going to have to try to get that vernacular out of my mouth. But no one has ever asked me for loyalty, period. The SCGOP has never called me. I've never heard from Burl Smith. I've never heard from, I don't know any of those names. I've never heard from anybody. Nobody's called me to ask me, hey, will you pledge your loyalty to the SCGOP? No one has asked from the Freedom Caucus. Nobody's called me from the Women's Caucus, so I doubt they will. Nobody's called me from the Family Caucus. I don't have time to even worry about that. I have got to be out knocking doors. When I get elected, we can then talk about where my loyalties lie. But right now, my loyalties lie with Jesus Christ and Michael Edgerton, my husband, period. End of story.
Amen.
Those are the only pledges of loyalty that I've made. So to put that clear, I have not pledged loyalty to people who want to put women in jail for having abortions. I've never done that. And I've never and I don't want dirty water. I don't understand that. And I don't hate police officers and I don't hate cops.
Wait, one of the attacks was that you want dirty water?
I don't want to fund public sewer and water systems.
Okay.
I'm for people who went against the budget.
Right. We could.
I'm in the same. I'm in the same boat because they don't.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a wild card. They don't know enough about me.
That's scary
for folks,
and it's scary. It's scary for them.
Yeah, for folks that maybe don't understand the context of that, all across the state, both incumbents and people running like yourself in open seats and in other races who've never voted on anything like in a legislative chamber, have been getting attacks saying, oh, they're against police and teachers and stuff, because there are some of us, myself being one of them, that voted against the state budget, even though we voted, all of us who voted against the budget as a whole voted for teacher pay raises in different sections and voted for law enforcement. We even tried to get law enforcement more money the past 2 years, and that got shot down. This is kind of the emblematic of what Josh, you were alluding to. In Colombia, they will, much like Satan does, take a tiny kernel of the truth and twist it into all kinds of lies by saying, these people hate teachers and puppies and all that. I mean, I caught a lot of that for the last 2 years. Anybody who sticks to their principles is going to get accused of all that stuff, because the he's the accuser.
I will make a pledge. Yeah. I cannot vote for any part of the budget that has money going to Planned Parenthood. I won't do it. Yeah. I'm not going to do it. So if you don't want to elect me because of that, that's fine. I'll stand on that principle until the day I die. No more money to Planned Parenthood. I'm not doing it. I have already given enough of my life. And to kind of go with something you said earlier, Joshua, when the first time I felt called to tell my testimony in public, I was like, Lord, really? I mean, these people are going to judge me? And he looked at me and he said, I have removed your shame. I have removed your guilt from you. And he said, I gave you a big mouth and you're going to use it for my glory. And I said, okay, God, that is true. I have always been accused of having a big mouth. So yeah, he's given me a big mouth and I will use it to tell what he has done for me. I'll tell it in the Senate well. I'll tell it in the House well. I'll tell it on the street corner, which I've done before. I am not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ and what he has done in my life. And I'll take that to Columbia with me. And, but yeah, it's been pretty brutal. The day the mailers came out, I probably had 150 personal phone calls to my cell phone, like my my cell phone, like my phone, and not my campaign phone. And people who know me in the district, they were like, "What in the world is this? What is this? It doesn't even look like you." They photoshopped it. It was bizarre. Like I looked like a puffer fish. I mean, it was amusing. And I was like, "Who is this Palmetto Truth Project?" I had never even heard of this group of people before.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Who are these people?" And I looked, I couldn't find anything about them. And I started looking on Twitter because they have a little bit of a Twitter, not much, but a little bit of a Twitter presence. I was like, none of this makes any sense. And then, was it Will Folks came out and said he had done some deep diving. And then it came out in the Post and Courier where they actually interviewed Walt Witzel about the Palmetto Truth Project and who he represented. And I was like, so I on my Facebook page, and this may not have been the best campaign move, but I was like, the call is coming from inside the house. Now this is an old movie. You guys are young.
Yeah, it's great. No, I guess it.
Yeah.
No, but who is it?
But actually, it alluded to a movie from the 70s where the girl called the operator and said, "I keep getting these crank phone calls that they want to kill me. They want to do these things to me." And she said, "Well, let me do some investigation." Call her back. She goes, "Ma'am, you need to get out. The call is coming from within inside the house." Dun, dun, dun. And it was like a big moment. And I was like, y'all, the call is coming from inside the house. I mean, it's not even coming from the Democrats. It's coming from within.
It's how ironic that something called the Truth Project are people hiding behind a curtain.
Yeah.
People that are hiding behind, a super PAC. People that are hiding behind and hiding themselves and trying to revert to that. How ironic. And that's the type of thing that we can't stand. So transparency for you. You alluded to having a big mouth, which is not a gossiping mouth, but you're confident, bold. You're bold and confident, which is what we need. We don't, and what you'll need in Columbia, because we've got some clowns up there that are full of pride and all sorts of egotism and things like that need to be able to be spoken over. Transparency, though, extremely important for the people of Spartanburg. These are people that work hard, Spartanburg, what a beautiful place, represents so many wonderful, incredible people. Jordan and I, I went to school with Jordan, who came to us from the upcountry. And we had so many great friends, and some of the nicest people that I'm still extremely close with were from that area. But the people that love the Lord, the people that love their state of South Carolina, their country, and I'm sure they're exhausted and tired of being lied to. What kind of transparency do you offer the people of your district?
Well, as I have started, like I said, I didn't know anything about running. So when I had to come up with a platform, you're kind of have talked about my platform a little bit, and it's that's sort of my baby platform. And now I probably could tweak it a little bit if I had any extra money, which I have to use my money to go against the mailers. They'll have to go out as mailers. But one of the things that I have kind of morphed, every single one of my platform pieces comes down to accountability and transparency. You see, I'm an open book. Ask me any question. I mean, I'm not going to get into gossip or anything like that, but if it's part of my life, I really don't have a whole lot of secrets. And, I want to be transparent. That's why I'm giving people my personal cell phone number on my push cards when I go to the door. Contact me. When I get in office, if I've done something that you thought I said I wouldn't do, you call me on it. Use this number. That's why I'm giving it to you, because I want to be held accountable. Because when I try to hold my own political figures, for the most part, accountable, I never get a call back. I never get an email back. And I know you probably get thousands of emails, and trying to wade through them is hard. Jordan, you probably speak to this more than I can, but you have to at least say, "Hey, I got your email. Let me do some research on it. I'll get back to you." Something like that, or phone calls. When you call Columbia, you just get some faceless, nameless person whose only job is to answer the phone, and bless her heart, she probably gets chewed out, or whoever, whatever. So I want people to be able to reach me, contact me. What do you believe about this bill? I want to figure out a way, and maybe this is something once I get elected, we could maybe discuss it. How do I keep the people who voted for me up to date? And Jordan, maybe you can talk on this, up to date on, okay, we just voted on S915, the House version of that bill. And this is the reason I voted against it. And I want to send it out to the people of my district, either by text or by doing some way. I voted against this, and here's why. And you may hear that there's going to be some blowback on it, whatever. But this is the reason why, because I want to protect the people of my district from this nonsense that's going on in Columbia. And not necessarily just about the 915, but about any of the bills that I've seen. Well, let's talk. You're talking about transparency. Why are the bills 242 pages long? Why do they have words, lawyer-ese? Nobody understands that except a lawyer, and sometimes not even lawyers. I'm a regular person. I don't have a Harvard degree. I went to Winthrop University, and I'm proud of my university. I went to Wren High School. I grew up in Anderson County 1. I've grown up in South Carolina. I had the benefit of living in North Carolina and getting back here as quickly as I could, and living in Spartanburg County. And most of the people in Spartanburg County don't have Harvard degrees. They don't understand. And I'm not saying they're stupid, because they're not.
So part of your transparency, part of your transparency is exposing the fluff, exposing, what's added to it, exposing what's hidden behind certain things, like we referenced in the budget as well. So is that one of your promises?
Yes. And I may have called it the wrong thing the other night, and because I don't know, like I said, I don't know everything. And any politician who tells you they know everything, they lying.
Yep.
And
they are.
But what I want to say is, I've always said, give the budget to a group of moms with a bag full of red pens, feed us for a week, give us nourishment and drink, water, and we will take we don't need to study penguins in Antarctica. We're not doing that. We're not building a road to nowhere. But we got rid of, and I called it the line item veto, and I don't think that's what it really is. But being able to cross out specific lines in the budget and say, okay, and I'm going to make this up, if we're going to study the brown porcupine in Australia, and that's going to cost us $1.8 billion, and I use that very specifically, that amount. Let's take that $1.8 billion, and let's don't study the brown porcupine. Let's put that into teacher raises or officer raises or roads.
Bridges. Yeah, I just saw they closed a bridge in Spartanburg County.
You're saying as a mother of four that your family has to live on a budget. And you've learned to live on a budget, but somehow for a lot of times, we elect people who have never had to live on a budget. They come from a long line of generational wealth, things like that, or maybe they're a divorce attorney, and that's been able to pay the bills for them for so long, and allowed them to to waste other people's money. So you're saying we need somebody who actually understands how to live on a budget and how to, live within the means, so that we can actually operate the state of South Carolina, and without raising taxes year after year after year.
And
so here's
nobody
I'll give a little
knows
insight.
That tax. We know we pay taxes. My people, when I go to the doors and knock on the doors, and they say, we have paid for a gas tax. We pay for a road maintenance fee every time we renew our license and tag. We pay property tax, which I know some of that goes to schools. We pay the penny tax in Spartanburg, which was real popular, but still got through somehow. We pay the penny tax. Where's that money going? They don't know, but they know it came out of their check. They know it comes out of their budget every time they go to the grocery store, and inflation's getting higher, and now we're taxing that again. It's just, my husband lost his job in 2008 in the downturn of that time period. And I had 4 children to feed, plus the 2 of us and a dog. We didn't have 2 dogs then, but a dog. And so there were times when it was beans and rice, because we didn't have money at this. And I was going to the local food bank and getting a box of food and trying to make that work for my family because I was waiting tables and that made some money. So we didn't lose our house. But when we ran out of money at the end of the month, we just didn't go to the basement and print it like our government does. And then people get frustrated. And I'm at doors and people are frustrated because we're spending money and in their perception, and I'm sorry, Jordan, I'm going to throw you somewhat under the bus, not you particularly, but all that money, and this is a quote, all that money goes to Charleston and Florence, and we get nothing up here. And I literally have heard that over and over and over, like we're the redheaded stepchild of the state. And that's how people sometimes feel here. And we don't, and I know I've heard people's names about Florence. I know that guy's name. I've heard it several times with like a swear word. They don't like him. He's now passed, so we won't denigrate his name. But all that to say is that's just their perception here in my county.
Well, and perception is reality in politics. Yeah. I used to work for a former governor of the state, and that's one of the things he taught me is perception is absolutely reality when you're talking about politics. And they're not far off. The reality is when it comes to the budget, it's far less about what we need as a state and far more about scratching each other's backs and all right, well, you get this for your pet project and I get this, and whoever's actually in charge, whether it's the speaker or the finance committee chairman of the Senate, which those are kind of the two most powerful positions in either house, they get $30 to $150 million for their area or more, just depending on where the area is from. Like, that's not the way it's supposed to be, but that patronage system essentially is what it is.
That's
the
what
good old boy
it.
system. Correct. That is alive and well, and it needs to die.
So
because it is destructive.
If I could ask a question then on that note, if I can remember exactly. Oh, when they choose committees, Ways and Means, because somebody asked me at something what committee would you like to be on? I was like, Ways and Means. They laughed at me. Yeah. And I'm like, but I would bring a fresh perspective. They were like, they don't want a fresh perspective.
They do not.
Could we? I know this sounds dumb or simple. Again, not Harvard educated, but my kids, when they buy Christmas presents for one another, they pick names out of a hat to who they're going to buy for. Could we not do that for committee instead of Mr. Person of Interest, who's the highfalutin guy? I'm going to appoint you there because you're going to do what I ask you to when I need a judge to come through here and get approved, or you're going to make sure that I get allocation to my. But instead, could we not do a lottery system or a pull a name out of a hat? I don't care.
I think that
bingo. Who's got bingo? Let's do bingo. Let's play bingo. I don't care.
I think a randomized process by which committees are assigned would be a vast improvement over what we'd have now, where it's entirely about patronage.
I thought it was just too simple a problem.
No,
not at all.
We have the KISS rule here. Keep it simple, stupid. So, all right. Well, I've got time for one more, Jordan. Unless you have any further comments.
No, yeah.
Okay, I got a chance for one more extremely important question. The one that I've been wondering about for a while because I'm not in the upstate very often. Where am I going to find the best hamburger? I'll let both of you have a chance to answer this. But you've got a new baseball team. It's called the Spartanburgers.
Home City Spartanburgers. Yep.
They're Home City Spartanburgers. You know, hopefully that they're going to champion one of the best burgers, or at least have many options and different food trucks and things like that. Where are you going, Sarita, for the best hamburger in Spartanburg County?
Trucks in there too. I got to choose.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's Hub City, not Home City. Hub City.
Okay.
So if I'm going to go get a burger, I'm going to go to one of two places: Burgers and Bakery on WOEZL. It's a small little joint, but it's literally one of the best burgers I ever put in my face. Or Rigsby's. And there's one downtown and one in Boiling Springs. So, yeah, those are two very good burgers.
All right. Jordan?
Probably either Ike's, which is toward the east side. Been there forever.
Forever.
And, as much as I love the Beacon and grew up on the Beacon, their burgers are not their best option.
No, it's not. They're onion rings.
no.
If you're going for onion rings, so you got to go to the Beacon.
I might say either Ike's or Sugar and Spice. Sugar and
God,
Spice.
Sugar and Spice. Yeah.
No, can't change it now, Sarita.
Change it now. I'm still sticking with Burgers and Bakery. They are fantastic, run by this sweet couple, and she makes some of the most amazing desserts you'll ever put in your face. It's just, and then they
check that out next time
they opened a little coffee shop down at the bottom, so they got it all now.
Oh wow!
Coffee, dessert, and burgers.
Y'all, if you haven't had an opportunity to go to the Upstate, make a little weekend getaway. It is a little bit cooler than here in the Low Country where Jordan and I live. But if you want to know more about Serita Edgerton, you're going to go to SaritaForSC.com. We're going to put that into the show notes. Sarita, thank you for being a guest here on the Current Situation podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate you letting me tell my story and let Spartanburg 34 be seen statewide. What an amazing place this is to live and raise your children. And y'all come up here and we'll go disc golfing.
There you go.
I'm all about it. I'm all about
get some
it.
burgers afterwards.
And get some burgers.
That's it. Well, you heard it here on the Current Situation podcast. You've heard from Serita Edgerton. There's a lot in the show notes that we're going to put. We're going to even put some links to these burger places. So look through there. Watch and listen to Sarita's testimony. Pray for Sarita. Commit to praying for your politicians that they would not be corrupted. She needs money.
And donate.
Right now, go to SaritaForSC.com. I think it's $1,000 per individual campaign contribution. Guys, if God's calling you to do that and your ears perked up and something in your heart was moved during this podcast, it is never too late to give a donation. There's so many incredible things that Sarita can do with that money, these mailers that we've spoken of, and we are in the final push of the campaign, and every day, every dollar counts. SaritaForSC.com. Sarita, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And we can't wait to see you representing Spartanburg County in the State House in Columbia, South Carolina. All of you listeners, thank you for tuning in. Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you again next week.